participant of the Advanced Certificate course in Social Standard. My name is Dr. Ondredengi Dixon Teran, a renowned facilitator at the Center for Innovation in Procurement, Environmental and Social Standard. I will be giving you lectures on resettlement policy and taking of assets, method, types, and then importance and the problems associated with resettlement. I will also be talking about valuation, compensation, and all of that. Cost overview. The cost overview, basically, we'll be talking about land acquisition, categories of land. We'll be talking about the types, legal framework. We'll be doing also with principles of resettlement, which has to do with the basic needs and arrangement of the course. Resettlement policy and taking of assets. At the end of these lectures, distinguished participants, you should be able to know the resettlement policy framework, method, enumerate the problems that are associated with it, and all of that. You should also be able to know, let's go to an introduction. Resettlement policy is a prerequisite basically in the global society now in Africa, Nigeria, and in the world. In the resettlement of projects such as construction project, infrastructural development is one of them. Then issues like exploration in the Niger Delta. We give you an example. The Lord Consortium from Abuja to Makurdi to Kefi is one of such projects. A lot of people are often, from time to time, you discover at this place. Projects like the Hydro Mambila Power Project in Plateau State, and you talk about issues like the Kainji Dam, the Kainji in Niger State. You talk about projects like the shared development. All of this require resettlement. And you discover that potentially negative consequences diminishes a lot of development of this project. Without proper planning and management of all of that, a lot of people will be affected, and we need to settle them. We need to plan for them so that at the end of the day, means of livelihood or income will be tackled and will be doing very effectively. It's what the course that you are going to learn in all of this. Then we are going to talk about land acquisition, method of land acquisition, who and who is in charge of land acquisition, the establishment, the compensation, and then they determine the eligibility of such land policy here and there. We will also be looking at the categories of land. Basically, most of them, just like you know, how will the people be resettled? You discover that some of these peoples are family land, some are community land, some apart from the community land, you also have corporate land. We also have issues like basically traditional or institutional land. Who and who should be compensated in a way? All of that we will be handling effectively and we will be doing. Then the land national policy. The land national policy in Nigeria stipulates very clearly that land ownership and acquisition is vested in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's in the state. Basically, the governor is in charge. For non-urban land, we will discover that such kind of land is handled by the chairman of local government, and their method that further classify into urban and rural land. Administration of land is directly under the control of those people. We'll be dealing with all of that, and you will see a lot of what is to be done. The local government has the right to grant the statutory land, just like the state government is able to go in charge of land issue, such as certificate of occupancy that is granted by the land, and the policy. The issues in doing are to require that both the state and should be able to pay compensation where somebody land is being displaced, somebody land is being taken away as a result of the project, road infrastructural construction. It could be dam, it could be school, it could be hospital. All of that, when somebody is displaced, either voluntary or by taken by force, that kind of person is supposed to need a kind of compensation and resettlement. And all of that is that to uplift the standard of living and such that. The act requires both the state, just like I stated earlier, to be able to take very sound and a very good care of the land policy. And then involvement of the owners of the groups, community. What we require as a community engagement. They should not just be taken, but they should be engaged in the community involvement. You discover that most of the time there is no environmental impact assessment. Not just only that, you discover that the social impact assessment that concern is not even taken care of. We'll be doing all of that. And then the property ownership. What about the property ownership? Who is in charge of the property? As confined in Section 43 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and 44 Section about. The government has the power, all of this taking of the land. But that should be in consultation in case of settlement with the community and the stakeholders, what we call even the critical stakeholders that you will be able to do. Then you'll be looking at the Land Act, Resettlement policy. The act very parcel of land in every state of the federation. By basically, just like is that with the state governor, and then it's gazetted, and that has become a law. Also, the unexhausted improvement in that kind of a situation, utility, amenity thereof has to be prepared very well, so that we take care of plantation of long-lived crops, of trees, fencing, for those involved in agricultural activities, involving poultry, for those that are even kiosks, all of that has to be taken care of in part of the resettlement. All of that we will have to do that. Then for developed land, there's also some procedure. Some land have been developing to buildings, structures, schools, all of that. In that kind of scenario case, you also have to follow the procedure. Compensation has to be payable to the vacant land, which exists on physical improvement resulting in a situation, and compensation has to also be payable to an estimated value. You have to estimate the present value and gauge what as a result of displacement, be it even in conflict situation like we have in the case of Boko Haram, in the case of issues like we talk about like herdsmen, all of that, develops has to be compensated. Then you talk about the land use resettlement procedure. In respect of the land, in respect of the building, installation, both developed plots, even the undeveloped ones, has to be taken care of very well in the building and the installation of all of that. Then you talk to avoid involuntary resettlement or forced resettlement, people have to be consulted. To avoid eviction, mitigation, you have to also deal with very, very fundamental issue that we're taking care of, providing compensation of loss of asset, and that should be done in time. Very, very quick, so that you don't subject a lot of people that will suffer. After suffering a lot at the end of the day, the people have not. And then assisting the displaced person. The people that have been displaced as a result of this taking away of the land also should be taken very good care of. And that's what we should be able to know. Resettlement policy and taking of asset, you're taking of virtually almost everybody should be taken care of. Even the people that are ordinary, you'll be taking that. Even those that they don't have statutory ownership of the land, certificate of occupancy, such as hawkers, squatters, even player bars or passerby that are making beneficial use of that land. If such kind of a person has been displaced, they have to be compensated or resettled in such a way that they will continue with their livelihood activities, they will continue with their lives, and that's the essence of the very important course in resettlement or policy. At the end of this, you should be able to know what reforms are necessary to ensure the resettlement of taking of asset, and what's the primary objective of resettlement. You should be able to tell me the primary objective of resettlement basically in the discussion forum. And then you should also be able to tell me necessary to ensure resettlement of taking of asset. That's as great participant I believe and trust you provide them in the discussion forum very clear for us to look at it. We'll be moving to next module, and this has to do with asset valuation. You have to be looking at the asset valuation, the type of assets we'll be looking, the cost of review has to do with compensation, it has to do with resettlement, objective of those compensation, beneficiary, who should be beneficiary of this, we'll be able to look at in this module 2, and we are going to do that. At the end of these lectures, you should be able to know, you should be able to define clear, in a very clear terms, what is evaluation, asset valuation. You should be enumerate the importance of asset valuation. You should be able to also tell me the importance of asset valuation, why this is necessary for us to embark on that, and then a common understanding on all of that. Then providing sufficient means to replace those assets in fundamental first towards restoring livelihood and living standard. Asset valuation, land assets, you talk about equipment, you talk about machinery. When we talk about assets, basically fixed assets, you have all those other assets that are liquidated in nature, fixed assets such as land, building, machineries, including even capitals, little computers, all of that, all of them in asset valuation will close to them as asset that should be taken care of. The writer of the title, the processes that they involve, you should be able to know basically the assets to productive assets, especially you talk about those that are affected permanently, that have been taken off and those that have affected temporary. All of that also has to be taken care of. Those even with business, as part of business, that has been their means of livelihood, means of survival, means of career, means of all of that, has to be taken very good care of in the asset valuation as well. You have to take note and cognizance of that. Next is, we'll be talking about these various steps. You can see from the very example that we are seeing from the old slide there. That is the governor of Lagos State. Governor Sanwo-Olu is trying to investigate inspecting properties upon which compensation will be made. Basically, you know that he who paid the piper do was detect how it will be done. It has to be verified by appraiser, not just appraiser, a team of professionals. And you know government has a very fundamental and specific law to do. Most of the time, they are the one receiving end that will have to pay all of that. From the pictures, from the slide, you can see very clear that's the governor of Lagos State. That's how most of you will be the participant. As we are seeing here, you will be governor. You will need to evaluate the importance of the assets. And it's very, very important steps. The meaning of valuation, that has to do with the process of determining the fair market value. What is the market value of those assets? If it is the land, if the land in Lekki, the land in Abuja, the land basically in Kaduna is different from the one you have in Makurdi or Tukpo, or the one you have in Lafia, the one you also have in Jos Plateau State is also different. Asset may be tangible. We refer to as tangible assets and intangible assets. When you talk about tangible assets, you're talking about issues like motor vehicle, you're talking about building, you're talking about issues like that can be seen. That when you talk about intangible assets, valuation, you're talking about issues like reputation. Somebody that have very good reputation, property right, all of that is also an asset. You discover that you belong to certain family that have the certain reputation, and then intellectual property is an asset. When for most of you that are doing an advanced certificate course here, you are also an asset because of the certificate you have, not just the physical properties you have. The displacement and the type of assets can be seen. Displacement at cost, and then at the income level, at the asset depreciation method of land. The formula is just like what you have seen basically here. And then we also talk about the importance of assets. The importance of assets is also very important. Why we need to then do valuation. Number one is that it's used for transaction. It's also used to, you know, the worth. When you determine the value of said assets, you know the worth of those assets. It's also used in banking. You also use it for accurate cost, for getting loan. You can also, when you evaluate, you know, because you know the present value of those assets, and it's very, very important for you to take care of that. You can see that the importance of valuation. And this valuation, you know very well, is also carried out by experts. It's not just by anyhow kind of people. You should take into cognizance all of that. The problem, there's also problems. Just like, you know, there are a lot of importance of assets. There's also a lot of problems that are associated. One of the issues that are associated with the asset valuation, you can see, is that the nature of the assets, the fact inadequacy. You discover that some they don't even have record. Some is that because of the corruption, because of the bureaucracy, because you discover also because of the utilization and the value of life, a lot of other contingencies are involved. That has been a very big lacuna. That's been a big gap that you have to know. The evaluation, most often times, you also discover that one of the problems is that the people that are valuing the assets, they are quacks. They don't have the necessary connections. They don't know much about them. And it's very important for you in this course. At the end of the day, some of you will be involved in valuation of assets. The right thing should be done. You also discover the processes in compensation. There has to be followed a laid-down procedure and protocol. Due process should be involved. Involve everybody that have been able to involve loss of assets or has to be replaced. Most often time you discover that a lot of people are not involved. You just pick one or two in the community. Let me give an example of a project that was constructed around Makurdi, Abuja, Lafia Road. A certain group of people in a certain community, they just call one or two people and they skew arrangement. A lot of people were not involved in the process of compensation, and that gives a lot of very, very big problem. And we can look at that. Then you look at the exercise you have to do. You should be able to tell me the problems of land asset valuation, which type of asset that are value for the future value. You should be able to discuss that very clear in a discussion forum for me to be able to know that you have learned one or two things in this asset valuation. Then asset valuation model 3. You have to look at the resettlement of the processes that is also involved, the community process before they are relocated to development project, infrastructural development project. All of that has to be followed through improvement. And if that is done very well, you will discover that all that is necessitated will be done and you will not even have issues with that. And then there's also type of asset valuation. You have the physical assets, those that can be seen basically like land, building, crops, agricultural activity can be assets, all of that, animals, poultry, all of these are type of assets, computers. And then you all have non-physical, such as the community relations, the cultural activities, the artifacts. Those ones can you discover that are non-physical activities. They can be valued at market-based price. They should be valued at the present value, and then everything should be done accordingly in the replacement cost. You know that residential and commercial land or assets also has to be considered. If there are residentials that they do not even have certificate of occupancy, right of occupancy, or commercial, where possible independent or accredited appraiser should be conduct evaluation. You should be able to bring somebody who is independent, devoid of any incumbents or interference from any quarter, not even government or the people that are even have the project. If all of that, that's done, valuation of commercial should be reflected in the location. The locations matters a lot. If you look, just like I gave you an example earlier, the location in Abuja and Lagos is different from location you discover in Enugu or location that you discover, rather that location, let's say, be it in Lafia. These are different situations altogether. And then you should be looking at the residential structures, the involvement of what is involved in the residential structure, direct housing, except maybe incorporated market-based. That should also be taken very good care of, and it's very, very important. For commercial structures, except where they're incorporated. And when they're incorporated, you also have certificates. You discover that market-based has to be, all of that has to be at the market-based valuation EFSA. You discover. This you can see very good example of the fixed assets, just like you're seeing in the picture. That is a building. You see the building, and you see an early statement. That building is a fixed asset. It has to be evaluated properly. Just look at it. The next you can be able to see is that it's more of a shrine. Look at that. Look at it. Look at how it appears. In those of that, even if it's a shrine like a Okija shrine, they have to be valued very properly. If it's a pilgrimage center, that kind of assets has to be valued. They have because you have to, when you have to relocate, you have to resettle them, value them, and compensation should be done accordingly. Now, the next we'll be talking about, should we look at example. In this, we consider issues like even tomb, burial grounds, and all of that. All of this should be asset in some culture, in some environment, in socioeconomic, that has a lot of attachment. Some of them believe that this kind of assets, they're the one giving them blessing, they're the one protecting them. So in the course of project, if they are going to be displaced or spoiled, all of that, or damages, you have to value them, value properly. The next issue we'll be looking at is that fixed assets, movement of artifacts, even movement of issues like Igbo-Oku, the North culture, the terracotta, just can be seen in the history. All of those kind of assets has to be valued, and just like you see from the picture. Then you will also be talking about valuation of other artifact, constitution of community, collaboration, all of that has to be taken care of very well. Then other fixed kind of condition of the above, you can see that the artifacts also as well. All cultural districts also should be taken very good care of. Other fixed assets like churches, mosques, you can look at the church from the background. You look at the mosques. If you are affected by developmental project, construction, the kind of conflict, and all of that involved in exploration, they have to be valued, and you have to value them very well. Then you have to take very good care of them. Other kind of assets you can be seen from there, just like school, also has to be affected. They have to be valued properly at the current market price, and you should know the very important of it. Then other kind of, this is a kind of a central community hall. That kind of community is affected in any community, in your village, in any community, or you're involved in such kind of project, they need to be valued and assessed very well. Zonal hospital. The zonal hospital that also has to be taken care of in terms of valuation. Other kind of valuations such as wells, pump, you discover all of them, construction, wells, all of that, even kitchen or ancillary. All these other auxiliary, small things that encompasses that are not mentioned from the one or two above in the other slide. All of them, be it fixed assets, has to be valued very properly. The next we are talking about is your exercise. What is the primary objective? What is the primary objective of asset resettlement valuation? Which agency is whose responsibility was responsible for valuation of assets in Nigeria? You should be able to tell me the agency that is responsible. I know all of you know, but I just want to be confirmed. It's also very important. If you don't know, you should be able to tell me in the discussion forum the agency that is responsible for valuation of assets in Nigeria. Thank you. We'll be moving to the next slide. Next one, we'll be talking about compensation delivery method and timing model. And then the kind of model, we'll look at the cost overview, which will be doing understanding the place of gender in compensation, the place of the right compensation, who should be compensated, what kind of type of people that are involved, all of that. Then we'll also be looking at the learning objective. At the end of this very, very slide, at the ending of this very participation or this kind of lectures that you are doing, you'll be able to tell me, identify the right method of compensation. Which one is the right one? You should be able to understand the right timing for compensation, and then the additional level. Timing is very, very important in compensation. You discover that if timing at the end of the day is not done, you discover that some people may live beyond this earth. Compensation payment should go directly to those affected. They should not pass through third party. Often time you discover that compensation is given to third party or some middlemen that we, one way or the other, give this person from family and few other people. Make sure that in compensation of that is involved in replacement and access all of that, it should go directly. If it is Mr. A, it should be going to Mr. A. If it is Mr. B, it should go to Mr. B. And in the course of that, you should be able, all genders should be considered. I'm saying we are only giving boys, and then we will give boys, apart from boys who are not giving it to other persons. To provide necessary harm, compensation should be paid in full. Pay compensation in full. Don't pay instrumental basis. Most of the time you discover that at the end of the day, we want to say that compensation will be paid, it will not be paid, and then as a result of that, we should be able to look at the principle of compensation, the person who have legal rights, even those who don't have legal rights, but they have been able to have one issue or the other that's the benefit from those that should be compensated. And then the persons who have recognized rights and claims of land, that should not be issue of consideration. You know that basically should be taken care of. And then the principles also involve all project affected persons, we call them PAPs, people that are affected as a result of resettlement project, that have one damage or one issue of the other that have been affected, all of them, their status, whether they are they don't have former status, they don't have CRO, they don't have ROO, they don't have certificate of incorporation, all of that, they should be taken care of. All of just we can see from the building here. The other people are down, they are just looking busted by benefiting from the project, all of that should be taken very good care of. Next, we'll be talking about the eligibility criteria. Who is eligible? Who is qualified to be handling this kind of project? You will discover that in the kind of project, the people who have ownership, they have rights, they have people even you discover that even other individuals that are just close by traditional rights or communal rights and all of that also should be compensated and all of that. We should also talk about the kind of resettlement policy framework. What you see there as RPF simply means resettlement policy framework. The policy framework covers all, stipulate all the eligibility, all the plans, the method that is involved, the structure, the business, the employment, the work days, the wages, and all of that. All of that should be covered. Then you should almost the same, all the project affected persons as required to match replacement. They should be taken very good care of in the replacement. It's very important to us when we handle in the policy, taking of asset, valuation, and compensation. The structure, even in agricultural activities, such as all these crops, poultry, you talk about landed properties, you talk about even allowances, rebuilding of structural compensation, all of that should be taken. And then we also talk about the vulnerable groups. The vulnerable groups are the people that are very poor around, but they're benefiting from the project or the community around the area should be taken care of. The household individual groups are affected or should be taken care of. Replacement at cost should also be taken very good care of. It's very important for us to do. And then we also look at the need for rehabilitation, involving all the rehabilitation that are involved in compensation, addressing negative impacts of the resettlement activities, and then relocation assistance, getting to down to a variable. You have to do that. Under what circumstance will compensation be done at replacement cost? This is the question you should be able to discuss in the discussion forum. And then in the first compensation payment, what will be appropriate and what will not be appropriate. And then that's where we are going to end for this very PowerPoint. Thank you, distinguished participant, and best of luck in your participation. God bless you.